No matter what you think of Tesla's full self-driving beta, users are definitely passionate about it. Owners are often documenting and sharing their successes and failures with full self-driving beta. So I need to start out this video by saying that I love FSD beta. I use it every single day that I drive. I use it for 99% of my driving. If you are familiar with my channel, you know that I love it. Even though I call it out when it makes mistakes, it's something that I actually use and do enjoy using. So I'm saying that because I'm pretty much just going to be complaining this entire video about some of the problems we have with FSD beta. If you want to see me saying good stuff, go ahead and check out the videos that I'll link up above, because I do have a lot of really good drives, and my overall thoughts about FSD beta is that it is extremely impressive, it's awesome, and I love it. But some of the bugs we have had lately are super weird. They're head scratchers, and it seems Tesla has almost abandoned us with these weird bugs that are worse than what FSD beta used to be doing in the past. So we know that FSD makes mistakes sometimes. Sometimes it'll try to turn right when it's not supposed to. Sometimes it'll try to go through a red light and the driver has to hit the brake. Sometimes it will read the speed limit sign wrong and do, weird stuff like that. And I want you to comment down below and let me know kind of your biggest annoyances. I did this over on X, and there were a lot of responses. People had a lot to say about the things that are consistently annoying them with FSD beta. Not so much, oh, it made a mistake here or there, but the things that the system seems to be programmed to do, that it does every single time, that is just wrong or annoying. I tried to make the same post having people share experiences that made them happy, but it's not something that people wanted to talk about as much as they wanted to complain about the system, which I think is a pretty common human reaction. So I'm starting this one off talking about these really weird specific bugs that have popped up recently in FSD beta. So like I said, FSD makes mistakes sometimes, whatever. That's why there's a driver in the seat and it's not actually a robotaxi and we have to take control. In the last 9 months or so, we have gotten some updates to version 11 and version 11.3 and then 11.4 that have introduced these really consistent, really specific bugs that never were there before. These are things that the car is now doing that I will see on pretty much every drive that were never a problem before. And yes, I'll mention, of course, I know version 12 is coming, but Elon has not talked about version 12 in quite a long time. I'm sure they're working on it in the background there at Tesla, but Elon is all in on Grok and X and, the latest kind of political thing he wants to talk about. And he's not talking about FSD as much as he used to in the past. So as of today, if you are going to buy a Tesla, definitely use Philip's referral code. Thank you so much to Philip. You can find his referral down below, and you'll get FSD 3 for 3 months, so you can try it out before you decide if it's actually worth any money. These are the things that you're going to get with your car if you're buying it. This is what FSD is today. And we have gotten several software updates with these specific bugs I'm going to talk about and show you examples of that have not addressed them. So even though version 12 was announced, Tesla is still doing something where they're updating their software, but they're not addressing these things where some of them are actually pretty dangerous. And it's like such a head scratcher. Like, what is going on over there? Fix this stuff. So my number one thing I'm going to complain about, you can probably guess, is I call lane drift. Now, this is where you're going down the road and a lane opens up to the left or right, and your car will just drift into that lane and go to take it. For me, this most commonly happens on 2-lane roads that then have left or right turn lanes opening up. And when that new lane opens up, the car will drift into that lane and just go full speed ahead into what would be a curb or whatever. Now, I have left this just to see what would happen, and it does kind of slam on the brakes at the last second and try to swerve back over, or it will slam on the brakes, and if there's a car there, it will just continue the maneuver and, make the left turn or right turn or whatever it wasn't actually supposed to do. But this happens so much for me. It happens every single day, multiple times. Now, the other big problem with lane drift for me is as soon as the car starts to move into that lane, the people behind me realize, well, at least they think, oh, this person's going to turn left, I'm going to start to make the move over and start to pass them. And that becomes dangerous because as soon as the car starts to move over, this person is taking up the spot that you're really supposed to be in, and it can just cause confusion and things like that. Now, if the car or the human in the driver's seat follows through with the lane change and doing the left turn or turnaround or whatever it happens to be, then, it's not that big of a deal, but it can just cause a lot of confusion. Now, there are different variations of this. Sometimes the car uses the turn signal, sometimes it doesn't, but whatever you want to call it, whatever you think the car is doing, it is awful, and it wasn't a problem before about April of 2023. Now, this seems to be related to nav, in that if you have your navigation set and you say have a left turn coming up, if a lane opens up to your right, I've noticed you won't really get the lane drift. If a lane opens up to your left and you have a left turn coming up in the navigation, that's when you get the lane drift. Even if that left turn coming up is 3, 4, 5 miles away, it's like the car is just like, oh, I have to move to the left, and so it moves to the left as soon as it can. So on top of that, I've noticed if you don't have navigation, this bug is less prominent. You won't get this lane drifting. At this point, we've had, I think, 5, 6, 7 software updates after this has been introduced, and Tesla's just not fixing it, and it didn't used to be a problem. This also is the one that I think is the most dangerous, because for me, it will move over into a turnaround lane. So in Michigan, we have Michigan lefts. I know they're in other states too. And when you move into that lane is then abruptly ending, and it ends in a curb. And the car doesn't seem to want to slow down until the last second. Now, another variation of this that I get often, in Michigan, we have, I don't know exactly what they're called, let me know down below if you know, but I've been calling them like a bypass lane. So let's say you have a 2-lane road, 1 lane in each direction. To alleviate traffic building up behind people that are maybe, turning left on these roads, a little like bypass lane will open up, and it's just kind of a bump in the shoulder where you legally are allowed to drive, and it's marked off by a special dotted line. It looks different than a normal passing lane, and you don't normally use that lane. It's just there if somebody's turning left, then you can kind of scoot around them and go around them in that lane and get back into, the main lane. Some people use their turn signals here, some people don't. It's kind of, whatever. It doesn't seem to matter that much. But FSD beta now, it's not always, it's maybe, I don't know, 60-ish% of the time, will turn its turn signal on and move into these lanes. This came up the same time the whole lane drifting bug came up, and it's not a drivable space unless you're passing somebody. And this happens to me, again, daily, and it is the worst. Practically, I don't find this one as dangerous because the car will move into that lane and then it'll just move back when the lane ends, except if you're interacting with other people, you'll confuse drivers around you. Of course, that's not a good thing. But again, I know FSD makes mistakes. That's not my point here. My point is this was never a problem before 6 or 7 or 9 months ago. But now this pops up. Tesla gives us several software updates ever since this has come up and doesn't address it. It's like, I'm so perplexed as to what is going on here. All right, now ignoring lane change requests. This one for me is very new. It's only within the last 2 updates or so. And the lane change behavior, if you've been using, I've been using Autopilot for like almost 5 years now, and FSD and all this. So the lane change behavior has evolved tremendously over the years, where in the past you would turn the turn signal on and the car would like sit there forever, and then it would very slowly move over. And then it got really good when you initiated a lane change. So you turn the turn signal on and almost immediately it would start to move over. It has gotten so much better than it used to be. And then that same behavior kind of moved to FSD itself, where when FSD wanted to do a lane change, it would turn its turn signal on and move over really smoothly. Man, it has gotten so good. Well, now something weird, and I don't know if this is just highway. This is mostly where I experience it. I don't know if it happens off highway or not, but I'll go to turn my turn signal on and the car just does not care. So the turn signal comes on, there's nobody around, maybe, usually, hold on, I'll expand on that. And the car just doesn't change lanes. This one was harder to capture. I'm not sure if I have footage of this bug because it doesn't happen every time. It's a little more rare, but it's like the weirdest thing. Now, what I have noticed sometimes is when I turn the turn signal on, if there's a car in the lane I'm moving into that's way far up ahead, I've noticed the car will highlight them. And I don't know if this is normal or not, but maybe it's like thinking they're in the way, even though they're super far away, and that's part of why it's doing this wrong decision. Either way, super annoying. Now, semis on the highway have kind of become a problem for me in the past few updates as well, where if there's a semi to your right and the car is passing it on the left, the car will, say the semi is going 65 and the car is set to 75, the car will speed right up to the semi, and then as it gets kind of next to the semi, it's like, oh, no, I'm not gonna pass them. And it doesn't slam on the brakes, it doesn't do anything crazy like that, it just simply doesn't wanna pass the semi. I can't figure out why. It's not that it doesn't have enough room. Obviously, there's plenty of room to pass it. And again, this one's a little more rare for me, so I tried to get footage of this. I can't remember if I actually did. I have been recording so much driving, trying to catch all these bugs. This has been such a nightmare to make some of these because the lane drift happens constantly. Some of these other ones are more rare. But yeah, it just won't pass semi. It'll just sit there and wait. I don't know, I have to press the accelerator, and then once I get it, if I get it like halfway past the semi and let off the accelerator, it'll start to hit the brake and go backwards. But if I get it, maybe 3/4 or most of the way past the semi, then it'll take over and keep going. But just another weird thing that's popped up very recently in this kind of wait for version 12. The windshield wipers. Now, I know there's a history of Tesla's auto wipers, and some people absolutely hate them and say they're garbage. For me, they've actually worked really well for a long time. And I always have my wipers on auto. Every once in a while, I'll click the button if it doesn't, do a wipe as fast as I want when it's kind of drizzling or something. But the windshield wipers are like broken. They are like backwards broken, where every day my car is wiping the windshield when there's no rain. It's like cloudy or sunny, or it doesn't matter. There's no rain, there's no precipitation. The windshield wipers will go off, maybe once. And then I can drive for 15 minutes and it doesn't happen again. Or maybe they'll just keep going off. Or maybe they'll go off 3 times and then stop. It is like, what is happening? Now, there is a way to fix this. If you've seen the sexy buttons, I will link a video up above and I'll put a link to that product down below. And you can say, I don't know, I think I have a 10% off code or something for them. I love these buttons. and they allow you to do things that you can't normally do. So the problem with the windshield wipers, you'd think, oh, just, turn them off. When you're using FSD or autopilot, you cannot turn them off. You either have to have them on 1, 2, 3, 4, or auto. Well, with the sexy buttons, you can turn them off. So once you enable FSD, the windshield wipers start going because they're on auto. These wipers will not stop, and it's not raining. Sexy button off. Thank you. Even when it's not raining, I press this little button and then they're off. And then they won't go anymore. Now I will still get the alert that says FSD is, maybe degraded due to poor weather, but there's no poor weather, it's a nice day. But the windshield wipers aren't going off on a dry windshield, which is great. And then you can just do it from the menu, you can turn them back on, or you can press the sexy button again to turn them back on. So highly recommend those buttons to enable features you can't normally do. They have saved my butt. I have an autopilot button I keep on my dash. I have changed that. I can't even have my autopilot button anymore. I have to have a turn the windshield wipers off button because this bug happens so much. And it's been months and we've gotten updates and it hasn't been fixed. I love that my car can get software updates, but I guess sometimes it's kind of annoying. So yeah, windshield wipers going off when there's no rain, it's mostly annoying, not that big of a deal. But what about once it starts raining? Yeah, then it's, like I said, it's like this thing has switched brains here. And once it's raining, the windshield wipers are like, nah, it's good. I don't need to do anything. What? Like when it's on auto, they don't do anything. And like, check out this footage I have. The windshield wipers are set to auto. I show it on the display. They're on auto and they just won't go. Then once I do a wipe, or I think either I have to do a wipe or I can turn them off and back on or something, then the auto will start working for the most part. Now, again, I know I'm hearing the comments right now. I know there's a history of people who are like, oh, the auto wipers suck, they've always been bad. No, this is new. This is different within the past few months where the auto wipers are on when there's no rain and sometimes they work fine, but sometimes they're not working when there is rain. This was never the case for me before. It's the wildest thing. And we've gotten several updates with this bug like live on our cars. Okay, so the next bug is something that's been around for a much longer time. But number one, has been specifically addressed by Elon a couple of times saying, oh yeah, this is fixed in an upcoming update. And number two seems worse now to me. So this is lane selection. So lane selection in FSD beta, say, you're going to a destination, you have a right turn coming up. Of course, you don't want to move to the left, you have a right turn coming up. The car has never been great at that. Usually it's just like sometimes it would move to the right in time, or if it was to the left, it would just kind of like sit there and not move over in time. Well, now it seems that the car in the past couple of months, or past maybe 9 months, or maybe even closer to a year for this one, it's hard to keep all this straight in my head. The car has a right turn coming up, or a left turn coming up, and then moves to the right. And it actively says, changing lanes to follow route, with a left turn coming up, and it moves to the right. This one is so severe for me that on my way to work, there's a section where there are 2 straight lanes and then a right turn only lane on the right. And my car will move all the way to the right turn only lane for an upcoming left turn. It says changing lanes, follow route. It moves all the way to the right side of the road as far as it can go, even though there's a left turn in, it's just like 1 mile. And obviously, this screws the whole car up. Again, I know FSD makes mistakes. I'm in control. I simply take over. It's just, the point of this video is to talk about these bugs that are popping up now as we wait for version 12 and like not being addressed and seems like they're getting worse. So this one has gotten really bad. Now, if you look at my downtown drives, those are usually very impressive. And I am very impressed by FSD beta overall. As I've said, I have to keep saying that because I know I'm getting destroyed in the comments, but whatever. There are no lanes to select. There's only the, you can go this way or you can turn around and go the other way. So the car doesn't have trouble downtown with lane selection because it doesn't have lanes to choose from for the most part. So on more rural roads or bigger areas with multiple lanes, this has become atrocious. And then kind of related to this, turn signals are just awful. Now, turn signals have been bad for a while, so this isn't so much a newer one, but I just wanted to throw it in here because, again, Tesla does pay attention to social media, so I'm hoping someone from Tesla or Autopilot is seeing this and it's like, oh my gosh, we'll work on it. Like, I don't know if this is gonna help in that regard, but it at least will help potential owners and people who are thinking of getting FSD be informed on what they are potentially getting. Turn signals are, number one, they'll go off randomly. So say you're going on a bend in the road to the right turn signal will come on. Not the end of the world. I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal. It's just kind of weird and makes you look kind of dumb. The other thing is the turn signal will just go off randomly. Like you'll have, say, a left turn in half a mile and the left turn signal will blink like 2 or 3 times. Now there's other spots to turn left, so you start confusing the people behind you. So that's super annoying. And then the opposite problem of that, which I have been complaining about pretty much since FSD beta was created, is the turn signals come on too late. Now, I think the problem is legally it's worded in a way where it's like the turn signal must turn on within, 200 feet of your turn. Well, if you're going 60 miles an hour, you've begun slowing sooner than 200 feet. So my car will drop from say 60 down to like 30 miles per hour. It's that dramatic before it turns its right turn signal on. So what do you think the person behind me is doing? They're probably like screaming their head off. Like, why are you stopping in the middle of the road? There's no reason. Turn signal comes on before you change your driving behavior. The point of the turn signal is to show the people around you, hey, something is about to change, look out, I'm gonna slow down or I'm gonna do something. You can prepare, maybe you slow down, get a little bit away from me, whatever. Just had to throw that in there because that is super annoying. Now there are tons of other bugs, and like I said, I asked people over on X what their complaints were, and I can scroll through some of those so you can see those, and I'm super curious to hear what you are most annoyed about in the comments below, because this is software that we have paid for or we are actively paying for monthly, and I am on the bandwagon of like, you should not pay for future promises. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you should be happy with what you're getting the day you pay, and you just hope that the company's gonna follow through. So you hope this car is gonna get better and better over time, but I would never suggest someone buy FSD thinking that, oh yeah, you're gonna be able to sleep on your way to work. I would suggest you buy FSD if you see the capabilities today and try it out. Maybe just buy it for a month or use the free trial and see if you like it. And then if you're happy with it, like I am, I really enjoy using it outside of, the annoyances, then you purchase it and you say, you know what, I like what I have. Hopefully it'll get better, but I'm not, spending all this money on a promise from a company that, all they're looking out for is themselves and their shareholders for the most part. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I will talk to you in the comments down below.